after Cucamongas. It's a dreary day outside. Sleet and rain and snow. What a perfect day for soup. And that's what we're going to try and do today, to make you a very nice but very unusual soup. You've probably never heard of this one before. This soup is from the old country. It's called CaldoVerde, green soup. Very earthy, easy to make, fast to make. It's going to take a lot more time to explain it to you than it does to actually cook it. Let's take a look at the ingredients, shall we? Okay, so we have here about 6 large potatoes. They've been cubed. About a tablespoon or so of olive oil. About 2 tablespoons of olive oil here. 2 cloves of chopped garlic, 2 bay leaves. This is kale that's been chopped. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little while. This is about 1/3 of a chorizo, about 3 ounces. 1 large onion that's been sliced. 1.5 teaspoons or so of sea salt, and about 2 tablespoons of sea salt. There's a lot of salt here, but there's a reason for that. Let's talk a little bit about some of these ingredients, shall we? So the kale, this one is pre-chopped like this. But you can chop this yourself if you can't find a pre-chop. You buy the kale and you put the leaves one on top of the other. You stack them and then you roll them like you were making a big fat cigar, and then just slice them and slice them and slice them, and this is what you get. Okay, so let me clear out the ingredients here, and then we'll get started trying to make the soup. All right, so we're about ready to start. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take our olive oil and we are going to brown our garlic and our bay leaf a little bit, just to saute it a little bit. Give it a nice flavor. Plus the smell of garlic and onion and bay leaf sauteing just makes everybody hungry, which is awesome. Whenever I want people to be hungry, I just start sauteing garlic and onion. That usually does it. It's just fantastic. So let's give it a few seconds to brown, and we'll add the potatoes in just a moment, and the onions, and see what happens. Let's see. Okay, let's add our onions next. Okay. Just a beautiful sound, It's just fantastic. And now we have to have patience a little bit, let it brown for a little while, and we'll come back to it. Meanwhile, we can set up for our greens. So I have a separate pot here, and there's nothing special about it. I have 2.5, maybe 3 cups of water in here. Then we're going to heat that up while we are browning our onions and our garlic. These don't have to brown very much, just to release the aromas and the oils. Okay, now we're going to add our chorizo. It's just a couple of pieces of chorizo, nothing special. We'll just go in there for browning purposes. The chorizo gives it that smoky flavor, and just, it's beautiful. And we'll give it a few more minutes to wilt. Nothing special. And so that's nice. So now we'll add our potatoes. We're just regular potatoes. About 6 potatoes, 8 if they're small. Just browning for a little while. I have 6 cups of water here, 6 to 8, depending on how many potatoes you have. And we're just going to bring that to a boil and cook it for about 15 minutes or so until the potatoes are done. Meanwhile, we have the water for our greens coming up to boil. Once the potatoes get going a little bit, we'll add the salt and then move on to the next step. Let me just do a little house cleaning here if I can. Well, there's a lull in the action. This soup is hearty enough to have in the evening all by itself, or with a piece of bread, or it can be used as a side dish to go with a nice meal. It's very unusual. It's very creamy, although it has no cream in it. smoky because of the chorizo. The kale, of course, fantastic flavor and also very good for you. I think you'll like it. Just takes a little bit of time to get everything to come up to boil and to start going. But, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I normally would walk away and do some other little thing while I'm waiting for this to boil and then come back. I wouldn't stand here like I am talking to you. Let's see what happens. Starting to come up a little bit. So we'll add our salt. Just mix it a little. Then we can add a little bit of our white pepper. Now if you look carefully, you'll see that the olive oil is already beginning to give us that beautiful golden color. It's that golden color that really makes the soup just pretty on the plate. Okay, so now we just have to be patient. We need everything to come up to a boil, and we'll come back to it. We'll put our timer on for about 15 minutes, and we'll just wait for our potatoes to get done. So our potatoes have come up to a boil. You can see they're nice rolling boil going on here. We have about 12 minutes or so left, maybe 15, depending on how many potatoes we have in there. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to start our kale. So we're going to raise the temperature on the water for the kale, and we will add that in. Made a mess, of course. Chefs make messes. That's what they have sous chefs for. AKA wife. That's okay, she loves to eat. So she doesn't mind if I make a little bit of a mess once in a while. So we add our kale, a little bit of, just a little dash of salt, and a little bit of olive oil to give it that yumminess. Okay, and then we're going to bring that to a boil. And we will wait on that a little while as well while these are continuing. It'll take a few minutes. While we wait a little bit for the potatoes to get done, I thought I'd tell you just a little bit about this particular style of cooking. This is a traditional Portuguese dish. I don't just cook Portuguese food. As a matter of fact, I cook very little Portuguese food because all my Portuguese friends are much better cooks than I am when it comes to cooking Portuguese food. But once in a while I like to do a dish, and this is a beautiful dish, and it's so interesting to introduce it to other people. But there are little tricks. For example, there's a little bit of chorizo in here to give you that wonderful smoky flavor. That's very traditional. But what if you wanted to make this wonderful soup and you wanted it to be vegan? It's really quite easy. When you brown the garlic and the onions, brown a little bit of smoked chipotle powder. Okay, so when you brown the, if you wanted to make this a vegan dish, for example, it's quite easy. You would just omit the chorizo, and when you brown the garlics and the garlic and the onions, you would also brown in a little bit of smoked chipotle powder. You'd have to brown it in though, so that you don't get that raw flour flavor. And then proceed with the rest of the recipe. It'll be smoky, it'll be delicious, and it will be vegan. So there's a change you can make while we wait for the potatoes to come up to be cooked. Okay, so our potatoes are done. They look beautiful. We'll be putting them through a passador, as we call it in Portuguese. And our beautiful greens are done here as well. We can shut everything off for the moment. Okay, now at this point, you reserve the chorizo, the pieces of chorizo. I have that over there, and you remove the bay leaves, and you could use your standard magic wand. And what you're going to do is basically destroy everything in the pot. I don't like to use the magic wand. I think that it bruises everything. It makes a heck of a lot of noise. So I like to use an old-fashioned passador, as we call it. Let me show you what I mean. It's one of these guys. Okay, it's a food mill, and to me, it does a much better job. So let's put the potatoes to the food mill. It will just take a few minutes to accomplish. It's not a difficult operation at all. You have to catch those bay leaves. and discard them. And then you just, if you could know, what this gives you is it gives you an extremely creamy soup. Much better than if you had used the magic wand. And once in a while, you just add a little bit more of the liquid and a little bit more of the potatoes, and you just keep milling it. It doesn't take that long. You know, they actually make these electrically operated, and they go much faster. I just don't happen to have one. I only have my old one, but it works beautifully. And even though it takes a couple of minutes, it's delicious. But the thing is, let me see if I can move it over here a bit more. The thing is, it does a much better job than the magic wand. Let's get a little bit more. And we'll just proceed with this until we're done. So we finished with the food mill. And if we get a close-up of this, you'll see just how beautifully thick this is. It's a cream of potato. Okay. And now what we're going to do is add in our greens with their water. Then you can see the color change. And it's just a beautiful soup. I mean, it's just incredible. Take a look at this. This is just awesome. Nice, beautiful soup. And that's why they call it green soup, by the way. Okay. And now I'm just going to bring it back up again to temperature real quick. And we're going to add in just a little bit of pure extra virgin olive oil on top. And what that does, it gives it that buttery feeling that you can't get otherwise. And that's pretty much it. We're done. Portuguese green soup. It's just unbelievable. It is so good. And it's really easy to cook. It's harder to make this video than it is to cook this beautiful soup. But we'll go ahead and we'll plate it now. And see what it looks like when it's plated. Now the way you do this traditionally is you take a piece of the chorizo and you put it on the bottom of your bowl, and then you add the soup. So let me just get the soup and try to plate this for you. It's just absolutely beautiful and delicious, by the way. It's absolutely delicious. Let's get it on the table, see what it looks like. And so there we are, Portuguese green soup. It probably took 20 minutes for this movie. It took about, I don't know, no time at all to make the soup. It's absolutely delicious. You can freeze it. What you don't use, you can make smaller amounts, of course, but believe me, there is no way you're going to eat just one bowl of the soup. It's just that good. Thank you for stopping by and watching our video. We're working on many more. Cheers.